splice. I moved over here. I'm sure glad you guys are here. Really awesome. I know it wouldn't be much fun. You know, I try to be a little interactive. And we'll wait till he cues me up. You know, this is being streamed on Facebook. You can. All right, good afternoon. Thank you all very much for being here. I sure appreciate it. The firewall did what? This is some advanced VMware NSX distributed firewall stuff. And what do we want our firewall to do? After all, what would we really want our firewall to do? I'm thinking like, you shall not pass! Right? That's kind of what we want our firewall to do. You shall not pass! I think that's appropriate, that a firewall would stop you from passing traffic. And Gandalf, of course, said the same thing at one point in his career. But he went one step further than that, didn't he? He went one step further than that. My looks is like me. It went one step further than that. He said, you know, we don't want the Balrog to cross Khazad-dûm, but we would like him to go to the deep dark places. We want the people in the Shire to be able to talk to each other. So at the end of that particular scene, he said, fly, you fools. Right? He got the firewall doing the same thing. The firewall needs to let the traffic go that's supposed to go and stop the traffic that's not supposed to go. Right? That's what we want our firewall to do, and that is what our distributed firewall does. In case you didn't know that, I'm sure most of you did, microsegmentation is kind of a buzzword, been around for quite a while, and we make that happen. The distributed firewall is the foundation that makes microsegmentation take place. So in this little short presentation, we're going to talk about that distributed firewall protection, and we're going to look at some of the tools that we have available to us in the web client to track, to manage, to look at what is taking place. Then we're going to look at packet flow. For those of you that are truly geeks and want to go to command line, we can go through packet flow in the central CLI and look at the packets that are traveling. We'll look at logging that's taking place for the distributed firewall, which I'm going to call DFW because that's a lot easier to say. And then we're going to take a very brief look at Log Insight and Network Insight, a couple of tools that have been made available for us, and we'll examine that. So we start off the distributed firewall, or DFW protection level. You shall not pass and fly, you fools. I created a little lab so that I could show some screenshots of a lab that has, I could use this. I could say, there is a switch called Moria, and there is a switch called the Shire. I'll put this down now, I won't bring it back up. But there is a couple of switches, and within Moria, we've got Khazad-dûm, we've got Balrog, we've got Dimril Dale, we've got Deep Dark Places. Those are all virtual machines within that particular switch, all on the same switch, all in the same subnet. And in the Shire, we've got Photo and Samwise and Bagend and the Sackville Bagginses, right? So if you've watched any Lord of the Rings, you kind of recognize some of those terms. So in the Shire, Bilbo said, yeah, Frodo, you can come to Bagend anytime you want. But no, Sackville Bagginses, you can't come into the Bagend. I don't want you there. They're on the same switch. How do we do that? It's called microsegmentation. Same thing with the Balrog and Moria, right? We don't want the Balrog to be able to cross Khazad-dûm. We don't want the Balrog who belongs to the Moria switch to be able to cross Khazad-dûm, which also lives on the Moria switch. We want the distributed firewall to be able to block that stuff. And you see this says root at Balrog, ping Khazad-dûm at Middle-earth, and no packets received. But when Gandalf sends him to the deep dark places, boom, 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 receive, 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 receive. They're all on the same switch. That's microsegmentation at its finest. Okay? In the Shire, Bilbo's trying to get to the web page at Bagend. Success. Way to go, Bilbo. Okay? Way to go, Frodo, I should say. And Frodo here is pinging Bagend. No problem. You got through there just fine. But when the Sackville Bagginses, who you know Bilbo did not want to have any access into the bag end, because they just take everything, he said, no, no, you can't come here. And so in the top address bar up there, you see bag end and Middle Earth, and at the very bottom it says unable to connect. Again, they're in the same switch. Okay? And Sackville Baggins is trying to ping, no luck whatsoever, but when they tried to ping Frodo, they could always hit up Frodo. It was always okay. They could hit up Frodo to try to get access, but it was allowed. The firewall rules were basically written to prevent them from getting to bag end. And that's what we can do with the distributed firewall. Well, how do we create these rules? Well, we can go into the distributed firewall and create the rules, but we got another tool called flow monitoring. And flow monitoring can be set up within the web client. You see over here, I've got flow monitoring in the left-hand side, and I've chosen a allowed flow, a set of allowed flows, and I've chosen those for a time frame that was just the last 12 hours. Yep, last 12 hours. Okay, so we're only looking at just a recent flow. But we look at that recent flow, and we can see down below that we have, holy moly, that is 4.10. 4.10 is a Balrog. Shame on us. He's getting through Khazad-dûm. Not supposed to happen. So what do? Well, I add a rule. I found out this IP to that virtual machine is happening, and I don't want that happening. Okay? I can add a rule. I can make the rule stop the Balrog. Good idea. That's an appropriate idea. And it says the destination's Khazad-dûm, the source is 4.10, the service happens to be chosen as an echo reply. I'm going to block that. Is the rule enabled? Yes, it is. Am I going to log it? Yes, I am. And where does it go? It goes into Gandalf's rules, because Gandalf is the one that's writing this rule. So it's going to go into there to make the place, and boom, there you go. The rule is right into the distributed firewall interface automatically. So that's a benefit to clean up what's taking place. Now, a couple of slides ago, I had an arrow pointing to allowed flows. It's also a way to check the block flows. Check the things that actually have been taking place, that are supposed to take place, that are supposed to be blocked. Oh, you find one in there that's not supposed to be blocked, you can adjust that through the edit of the rule as well. Now, a lot of times, our network team is uncomfortable with going to this virtualized network thing, because I've lost all kinds of sight to the traffic. I can't really see the traffic. Well, we have a tool called TraceFlow, and the guys that are part of the network actually have probably seen Packet Tracer by Cisco, and they use that to trace flow and to see how things are going in their test environment. Well, we can do it in our live environment with TraceFlow. We can run test pings and see where is it going to happen. And we can choose our source, choose our source NIC, VNIC, choose our destination VNIC, and then trace the flow. So it goes. So one of the things I'd really like to show to people when they see this for the first time is where the distributed firewall actually takes place. You see it's coming out of a VNIC. The very first line, the highlighted line there, is coming out of the VNIC, and then it goes into the firewall. The firewall does the analysis and decides whether or not that's going to be allowed. And then he passes it through to the host. In the case of this is to a virtual machine. So it's going to actually be VXLAN across to the other host where the physical team can see it. Well, they couldn't see it inside, but they could see it when it goes host to host. And then when it gets to the destination, it also goes through that firewall before it's released to the VNIC on the destination virtual machine. That's what microsegmentation is taking care of. It's getting it front side and back side. It's getting it source side and destination side. And it's going to be analyzed in each step of the way. If it is allowed, you can actually mouse over the firewall indication of the rule that's taking place. There's the Gandalf rules in the group. Keep the Balrog at layer 3, identifying the source and the destination. That's going to be allowed right there. Okay? If in fact it goes through on the destination side, we can check it there as well. So we can actually see, again, if the distributed firewall is doing its job. And that's appropriate. That's what we want it to do. What if the distributed firewall is supposed to block something? Well, that's pretty appropriate too. Let's look at the rule that's in place to make that block take place. We can see it right in trace flow. This is kind of a helpful tool for digging down into the analysis of what's taking place. Another thing that takes place in distributed firewall that people wonder about sometimes is, I got 5 administrators that are being security administrators. Who did what? So we have an audit log that will take place when you've got 5 administrators. You want to see who's writing the rules. Hey, why did you do that? You know, geez, my eyes aren't very good. Brian, why did you write that rule, Brian? You know, that would be, I don't know, it seemed like a good thing to do at the time, and that sometimes is the answer. But we can find that, and actually what's been improved in version 6.2 is that not only can I see who wrote the rule, I go to modify and I can look at it. Hello, come on, move along. There. Gandalf wrote the rule. That must be a good rule, because if Gandalf wrote it. But, oh, I need to go back. I can tell exactly what was changed in that rule. What change was made. That's something that wasn't available previously. Okay, this is a 6.2 improvement. We can tell exactly what rule was changed, who changed it, what change was made, source, destination, whatever that the rule was occupied. So it's in the audit, and I can figure it right in the web client, and I can find it. I don't have to go hunting through logs someplace else. So that's sort of three tools that we have available in the web client to assist in our management of the distributed firewall. Say cool. Thank you very much. Okay, good deal. All right, so now we talk about some of the CLI that we have. Since you all look like me, a bunch of geeks, we want to sometimes do command line stuff so we can really see and drill down and dig in. And so we have a central CLI, which was an improvement in NSX 6.2 as well, that said I can now manage centrally a lot of things that I had to go individual objects previously. And just as a reminder, we've got the photo, Sackville baggages, and bag end in the Shire, and that's the kind of the lab setup that I have. And I've got 3 commands that are listed one after another. Oh, by the way, if you've registered for this thing, you'll get the slide deck, so you don't have to memorize all these commands I'm showing you right now. You'll have a slide deck and be able to look at it there. So it says show cluster all, and then you find the cluster that you're working with. Domain C27 is the one I want to look at. Great, I show domain C27, and it lists all the hosts, and then I show the particular host, and it lists all the virtual machines. So boom, 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 I find and drill down into the virtual machine in question that I'm trying to check the rule on. So I show the VM, and down at the bottom of that screen is a NIC and a filter. The filter says, it's hard to read, NIC 175471-ETH0-VMware-SF.2. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't type real well, and so I really am happy that there is copy and paste within the interface. It works so much better for me. So in order to actually do a packet capture, I must be in privilege mode. Those of you that have worked with Cisco or worked with our products know to get into privilege mode, you type, what's the magic word to type to get in privilege mode? Enable, okay? And then you have to know a password. What's the password? Okay, so you have to be able to get into that in order to start capturing packets. Again, I'm so glad that you have access to these slides, because I really don't expect you to remember the syntax of this particular set of commands. What I've done here is debug packet capture host 30 on the VNIC, the certain VNIC that I copy and pasted in, the direction of input, that's his top line, and we go down to the next line, and we're doing the packet capture for direction output. So I'm getting, easy back there, so I'm getting packets going in both directions, so I can actually see the traffic that's taking place. How many of you have used debug in any way, shape, or form in your life? Some of you have done that. There, thank you. I got a couple. How long do you leave it on? Not long. Not long. He's going, not long. Why? Why don't you leave it on long? Fill up your drive, right? Fill up your storage real quick. So we want to turn it off, and we use the command no debug, imagine that, to turn that command off. And since I started 2 sessions, I have to stop 2 sessions. Now, I've got the sessions collected. I can do a show packet capture sessions to see what are listed. This is another thing I don't want to keep around forever. I want to make sure that once I've analyzed the session, I get rid of it. But first I got to find the session and do the analysis. What tool do you use typically? How many network guys are in here? You got any network people? Okay, there's one. All right, so what tool do you usually use to analyze PCAPs? Wireshark. Wireshark. Okay, we can look at them here, but I'm a bigger fan of Wireshark. It works a little bit better. But I've got 2 sessions that are listed here that are finished that I can do an analysis. You see there's a file name about, I'm going to point to it, right about here and there is the file name. So we can use our Wireshark to analyze that. We can copy it out. We can look at it. Or, shoot, we can go ahead and look at it in our own device, right? Where I'm debug packet capture display session. I better copy and paste that thing again. And then the keyword parameters, even if I don't have any parameters I need to list. Now, I've done that with both the input and the output. First, this is the input, and you see Frodo's getting access to Middle-earth, and we can see each of the packets as they're taking place. And then the response from bagend.middle-earth to Frodo can be seen in the output. So we can see them in both directions. So we can actually analyze, and of course, if I'm doing Wireshark, it'll all be pretty in color and everything, as opposed to just plain text. Now, if I've done that, I probably am going to want to, I may have captured packets for an hour. I may have captured packets for a day. I don't necessarily want that to be stored on my host or on my edge or anywhere there. I want to get rid of it. So the command is clear. See, if you look real close there, you're going to see clear session. But you got to know the session ID, and it's this long. So God bless, right click. It's a wonderful thing. Okay, so that's some of the packet capturing that we have. Now we also have logs available, and logs was changed in 6.2, might have been 6.1, to not be all in the same log. It all used to log into the VM kernel log. All of our distributed firewall action was logged into VM kernel log. How big did that get? How hard is that to find stuff in? Oh yeah, it was kind of, so we have a DFW packet log file now that is separated. So we can check it on the different hosts. This is NSX Manager. It's going to show the summarization of the DV filters. Okay, so we're doing the central CLI to see that. All the different filters. I love it that it's under slow paths. But in any case, it gets down to the VMworld bagend at the very bottom there. It's got bagend, and then it's got a DV filter name. Okay, so that DV filter name, we looked at that earlier. It's that SFW.2 filter that was put in. So I can look at the host SFW.2 rules. And we look at these rules, and we see all the different rules that are made for that DV filter. And it goes through and really kind of focused on a particular set. And the address sets are, I think it's rule number 3. Address set source 1018 to address destination 1018. That rule set is the 1018 rule set. So I can look over and find destination 1018, and I can find source 1018. So I'll know then the rules that are in place, and I look and go, oh, that's 1.11 and 1.10. Perfect. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay, that's Frodo and Bagend. Then I can pull up the rules and say packet capture, UW captured. Now look closely. I know this is just crazy with all this command line stuff, but look closely at where this command is run. So top left of each of those screens, I'm on the host. I'm actually, in this case, I'm touching each host to find out the results. And I'm doing a pre-filter capture and a post-filter capture on the individual host in question. Okay? So now if I look at that pre-filter and the post-filter, packet capture, I got a name there. You see I got a nickname, and then I've got a config file, and I'm going to do a SB post and SB pre. Sackville Baggins pre, Sackville Baggins post. Are we going to get 2 bagend from the Sackville Bagginses? Bilbo says don't do that. But what did our firewall say? Well, our firewall here says in the post, which is the top part of the capture here, the pre is the bottom part of the capture here, you'll notice that there's 4 and 5. In pre, look at the bottom line. Sackville-Baggins.Middle-earth to 10, on port 1034 to Bag-End Middle-earth, HTTP. In the filter, I saw the HTTP inbound. There is no corresponding outbound. The firewall blocked it. The DV filter blocked it before it sent it. So that's proof the firewall is doing its job and is working. Cool? That's a very cool thing. All right, so vRealize Log Insight. Hey, does anybody have any questions right now before I move forward about what we talked about? Not so much? Okay. Then let's talk about Log Insight. vRealize Log Insight. I'm going to do this real quickly. I'm going to go through Log Insight. I don't have a lot of screen captures, but what I do have is the idea. I got a lot of idea. And the idea is I don't want to touch every single host. I got 14 hosts in my cluster. I don't want to have to go to every single host to see what's happening here. First, I got to find the virtual machine, which host he's on, which blah, blah, blah. So our Log Insight can do a lot to centralize. Anybody heard of syslog? I know we don't have a lot of network guys here. Syslog? Okay. Who's here Log Insight? Who's done Log Insight already? Okay. You know if you get NSX, you get Log Insight. So if you license NSX, you license Log Insight. And what can it do? Well, you have to get it installed, right? So screenshots here are basically getting it installed. And then you really want to put, if you've got NSX, you really want to put the content pack for NSX. So you can gather the log information that NSX is providing. NSX has a manager, has the controllers, has the edges. There's a lot of places that NSX is doing logging. And so we like to incorporate that into Log Insight to be able to do an analysis of the logs in real time and in non-real time as well. I mean, keep track of all the logs. So you put NSX Manager, when you do the contact path for NSX in vSphere, it's going to tell you that you got some things you have to continue to do. Okay, you've got to get Log Insight integration for all the logs for the manager, for the controllers, and for the edge devices. And fortunately, it tells you what to do. So it's real, you know, we don't want you to be out in the blue without any knowledge. So it's pretty easy on the NSX Manager. You go into the admin page on NSX Manager, identify as a syslog server, you point to the Log Insight server. Okay, so it basically is working with Log Insight as the syslog collector. This one's a little more complicated, just a little more complicated. I'm sure everybody that's sitting here can do it, and even those that are standing here can do it. You've got to run a REST API command. The controllers do not have any GUI. There's no GUI. Everything in the controllers is all command line, right? And so we can push a REST API command to each of the controllers to identify who the Log Insight server is. So it does have to be done on all 3 of the nodes in the controller. Oh, I was going to ask that. How many nodes do you have in controller? But I just answered it, so that wasn't so good. Okay, and then we can also go into each edge and set that up. Edge Services Gateway, set up the log server there as well. Now I'll have Log Insight gathering all kinds of information. Every bit of that log that took place in NSX is being gathered, accumulated, folded, spindled, mutilated, and put out into dashboard form. My lab didn't have a lot of traffic, so I don't have a lot of information in the dashboard right here. But some of these pages are NSX system events by severity, logical switch events by severity, switch alerts by host name, logical router alerts by, I mean, it just keeps track of all the logged events that take place throughout your NSX environment, accumulates and puts them all on dashboards so you can start to see, oh, I should take a look at that. Right? So you can be a lot more proactive in the management of your environment. Or if you really like, how many of you are bosses? Oh, we got a couple bosses here. I'll be careful then. How many of you have bosses? Yeah, well, it seems like almost everybody has a boss. they tend to like pictures. Have you noticed that about your boss? Pictures are good, right? The bosses in the room say pictures are good. So, but pictures are good. Log Insight can give you a lot of graphical information that can be presented for reports and get it upstream as it's accumulated all that data and got that taken care of. Cool deal? Yep. All right. The next thing and the last thing I'm going to talk about today is Network Insight. And I'm not going to be able to talk a whole lot about Network Insight, but boy, there's some other presentations you might want to attend on Network Insight. Network Insight, okay, you're all seated. You guys, been back, hold on to something. Network Insight gives you insight into your network. No, it's true. It's true. So basically what I've done here is gone, okay, we've got a couple of things that we need to do to create and install Network Insight. And it kind of gives you an outline here, but it's really a pretty big piece of your infrastructure to gather the information that your network is generating. Now, Network Insight will take care of your logical networks, the virtualized networks, and help you with physical network as well. So it's a lot of information available from Network Insight. So you set it up, and it's a 2 OVA install. It's the system and the proxy. And so you generate the a key, and once again, I'm a big fan of copy and paste because I ain't typing that thing. I would not get it right the first time or the second time, I'm quite certain. You guys probably all would, but I'm not that good. So I'm a big fan of copy and paste. We build that to build the proxy. Now I said it's kind of a hefty machine. You got 2 sizes that you can do with Network Insight. And we're looking just at the platform configuration of medium. And it says, okay, I need 8 vCPUs and 32 gigs of RAM. If I thick provision my Network Insight install, I'm talking about 800 gigabytes. That was almost a real Freudian slip. About a terabyte, just under a terabyte, just for the platform. And then another 157 gigs for the proxy, and that is required that you have both. So you are talking about a terabyte of storage. Well, geez, that's a lot. I don't know. Do I really need to do this? Plus you got 4 more vCPUs and 10 more gigs of RAM. And that's just the small environment or the medium environment. The large, you can see on the slide that it's 50% larger in resource needs. So you've got that, but why would I want to use it? Oh, it's got pictures. Once again, it's got pictures that you can use, and that's a definite, wow, is that a picture? Very hard to see far away, so you can have the slides, you can take a good look at it later on. But it analyzes your VLAN traffic, it analyzes your VXLAN traffic, it analyzes your routing traffic, it analyzes your network, and thus giving you great insight into what you could do to increase and improve the performance of your network. Highly recommended you take a look at it and give it a try for your Network Insight. Boy, that startled me. I don't know if it did to you. Anyway, guys, I'm about out of time. There are some things that you can do to find more information about NSX, about Log Insight, about Network Insight. And one thing that I always like to point out to everybody that is interested in NSX at all is the Handson Labs. If you haven't been downstairs to run the Handson Labs, go home and run the Handson Labs. It's provided for you based on one of my favorite 4-letter words that starts with F. No, not that one. Free. Free. So you can get access to Handson Labs. What you get access to in Handson Labs is a fully functional NSX implementation. So you can build switches, you can build distributed routing, you can build distributed firewall rules, and have all that done with a lab that you didn't have to pay for. I like that word. I'm a real fan of that word. So go to labs.hol.vmware.com, do one search, NSX. It'll pop up, join any one of those labs, and you can extend to keep it for hours if you want. There's a lot of sessions. If you haven't heard, our CEO, Pat Gelsinger, said NSX. Boy, we're full of NSX. throughout the VM world. So if you haven't seen any yet, get on that NSX track and take part of it. We can help you with questions here. We've also got a certification center. You can get your VCP NV this week, not just from what you learned here. This is probably not enough for that, but we can help you with that. And we've got all kinds of training. We've got online training. We've got education provides instructor-led training. You might get stuck with me as an instructor, but we've got other ones as well, so you might get somebody that's good. And we've got online training, we've got on-demand training, we've got the Learning Zone. If you haven't heard of Learning Zone, it's something you should ask about out here. The Learning Zone is a subscription-based service to get all kinds. You get 60-day trials, so it's probably worth the price of admission there. I like free. Did I mention I like free? Global Services, we're part of Global Services, so we also like to remind you of what Pat mentioned on Monday about Skyline and the proactive customer service that our GSS is going to be working towards and gaining access with customers as we build that. So please jump in. I'm really kind of done. I think that's all we got. Unless you have any questions, I'll be happy to stick around for a while and answer any questions you've got about NSX, about the firewall, about the tools. Shoot, about how long it takes to grow my beard. 2.5 years. There, got that one taken. I knew you all wanted to know. All right, I'm done. Thank you, guys.